This is my video looking at assembling the Test of Honor mounted samurai set. So these are the components. You've got a blister with a metal rider, 5 metal heads. You've got a horse sprue with 6 horses and 6 of the arrow catchers that you can put behind the riders. And you've got a rider sprue with 6 riders, from which you can make 3 mounted archers, a general, or 5 spearmen, or any combination of them. I'll be separating the stuff from the sprue and I'll be coming back showing you how to do the assembly. I have cleaned off all the parts for the horses. I've got some basing materials ready, some sand and some rocks. I've got some Tamiya thin cement, which I'll be using to stick the models together, and I've got things ready to put together. So as I'm putting these together, I will need to find some of the pieces that go together. So we've got one on this side, we've got one on this side. So this should slot together much like so. What you're after is to have the feet together. So that doesn't quite go. So what I'll do is I will then try again. So I'm after a straight back leg. Let's try like that. Bang. So that body fits together nicely. We've got a pushed out back leg. So let's see if that goes together nicely. For a sort of rearing horse, that does. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Again, for a sort of rearing horse, that's fine. For a more standing horse, that's fine. Again, a more standing horse, that's fine. And a rearing horse, that's fine. Basically, I've done this so that I have enough points of contact when I glue them down to the base for them to be stable. So as I assemble these, I'll need to have the tails in place, because the tails will slot into these pieces here. So I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to assemble one in close up. So we've got a series of tails. So that'll go like so. So a bit of glue on the tail. So drop a glue there. And then tail goes in. And then we paint the glue around the rest. So bit on there, bit on there, bit on the top of the tail, and then correspondingly a little bit of glue on these pins, which then softens them. So then line it up and push the whole thing together. You just got to line the pins up and push it together quite hard like that, and then you've got most of the horse assembled. So I'm going to go through, put the rest of these together, and then I'm going to mount them on the bases, but I'll do so on video. The heads are going to be fairly simple to put in, like so, but I'll get them together and then I'll look at how dynamic the heads have to be compared to the models. So I'll be back in a minute. So with the horses assembled, it's time to glue them down to the bases. So it's actually really important to get good solid joins here, because it'll be how there'll be a reasonable amount of weight on the model, in terms of particularly if there's a metal rider, and I'll need to put a small hole in here because I'll put a pin in the bottom of each rider. So I've deliberately posed the heads on the horses to match the movement, but you can see from things like this how dynamic the horses look. So again, glue on the hooves, press it quite firmly down, because what you're after is a weld. But then you've got some of the, let's pick a more dynamic horse, this guy. So glue on the hooves, and then a somewhat more dynamic pose. So again, I've got to hold him on the base like so for probably about 30 seconds to make sure the glue starts to join. Putting the horses together was actually quite simple once I'd paired them up. See, it's not joined yet. Putting the horses together was quite simple once I'd paired the pieces up, and then I simply matched the heads to the level of dynamism in the bodies. So there's a couple of horses who are going to have 3 hooves in contact, but the majority of horses will have only 2, which makes getting these joins right quite important, because as you see, that hasn't joined enough, and these ankles are going to be a bit too thin to pin. So I'm going to hold that like that for probably like a minute so that I get that join. What I'll do is I'll pause the recording and I'll come back with all of these glued down, ready to do the basing. With all the horses stuck down to the bases, I'm going to start putting some basing material down. What I did do halfway through is I realised what a good idea it would be to drill the holes in the back of the horses before I stuck them down, in terms of the ease of getting things drilled in place. So I'm going to pop down 3 little blobs of super glue, and then I'm going to find from my little pile of rocks here, let's find some nice rocks to pop down, because we're doing this to add a bit of 3D to the base, because I'm going to base it with sand and have some static grass after, but what we want to do is have some rocks to poke through. So and then I repeat that with all the other horses. So let's put 5 rocks down on here, but let's make one of them quite a small rock. And another quite a small rock, and quite a flat rock there. And then you just go through, do all the bases. Put some blobs down. Vary the rock size. Start getting it all down. So I'm going to stop the video here and I'm going to come back with everything done and dry to apply the sand. With the super glue dry, it's time to use a bit of PVA on the basis of some of the horses. Painting it on to completely cover the area not covered by the rocks. And then you take your little box of sand, run your model in it, and there you go. So after this sand is dry, I'll be applying a coat of thin PVA to seal it, and then the model will be ready to be undercoated. So you can see how quickly we've got these in a state to be undercoated. If you like playing grey armies, please do seal the basing before you start playing with it, otherwise you're going to leave sand everywhere and you'll have to redo your basing. But it's a quick and easy basing job that gets these to a state where you can undercoat them and start painting. Later on you can come back and add some static grass, which will break up the reasonably flat outline of the base. You could use some filler and build up the base in order to not have the whole thing be flat, but that is very much what we've just done using the PVA and the rocks. So I'm going to finish these off. If you like this video, hit like or subscribe. If you feel strongly, leave a comment below. But I will be coming back in a reasonable period of time to paint these after the weather gets a bit better and I can undercoat them outside. I'm going to undercoat them in grey because these are horses. They're all going to be painted various horse colours. It's not going to be primarily armoured. I hope you enjoyed the video. Good gaming.